Hi, and welcome back to the Friday Happy Hour with me, Annmarie Kelly, and my guest today is Dawn Wells. Welcome, Dawn.
Thank you.
Dawn, I want you to know that I was a star at every holiday party I went to this season because every time I said that I was going to interview you, the women were excited and the men got dreamy-eyed. Dawn, every single one of them, so I would ask them the Ginger or Marianne question, and every single man said Marianne, and they just got this look in their eyes that's like you were their first love,
I think the first crush, and I think what's interesting, I don't think you're going to have that anymore with kids because there's so much out there that's so kind of bizarre. I don't know that as a young person you kind of tune into somebody and it's kind of your little fantasy that you take her to the prom and stuff. I think it's so overboard now. I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, sometimes it is funny. It's hard with because I know in your book, What Would Marianne Do? You talk about how there are more Gingers out there now than Mariannes.
There are, and that didn't come from my mouth. I'm a graduate of a women's college, and I was on campus talking to the girls, and I said, I want to talk to you about the Marianne and Ginger issue. Do you think Marianne would make it anymore? And one little girl said, absolutely not. She'd have to be more of a bitch, pardon my language. She'll have to be strong and independent and blah, blah, blah. And the other little girl just looked up and she said, oh, there's just way too many Gingers today. And I thought, that's really what it is. It's all about glamour, surface, most of it. I mean, there are some wonderful kids. I don't mean that. But it is very hard as a parent to kind of monitor what's going on, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. But when I was reading What Would Marianne Do, and I really liked your book. I thought it was really neat. What a lot of people don't know is that the character of Marianne was not developed when you got the part. Gilligan, the skipper, the house Ginger, and I think the professor, they all had a Hollywood developed character, but your character started out as a teacher, but then if I have this correct, there were 3 teachers in the cast, so then characters, and then they had to change that. So all you got was that you were a farm girl from Kansas. Do I have it right?
Yes, and I'm not even sure the word farm girl was there. Girl from Kansas is really what it was. I identified with, because I used to say back and forth, now what was I? Was I a secretary? Did I work in the grocery store? What was I? And there wasn't really an answer. So really what developed was what I brought to her, basically, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you really breathed life into her.
And it was fun. She was a good character. She was kind of the moral compass of the show, I think.
I think so too, and I think that's why guys really resonate with that. When they're younger and they like that bad girl, like they're in that bad boy mode. But when they actually think about settling down, they're looking more for a Marianne, somebody who has values and somebody who has ethics.
Well, that's one of the reasons I wrote the book, because most of the men that I meet with fans say I'm married to Marianne. I think the Marianne crush as a little boy is that she was attainable. She'd go to prom with you. She'd make cookies with you. Ginger, you had to really take her out or buy her a martini or something.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the crush started when they were young. And then as I get to the marrying age, the values of Marianne are what you're looking for, to have a family and things, I think.
Yeah, that's where the Marianne part comes in.
Yeah, and it's interesting how it's developed, my gosh, all over these years. But we were talking the other day, there were movie stars that were very famous, like a Doris Day or somebody, but they're not in your home. We're in your home. We're in your living room, your bedroom, your kitchen. We're in your home and have been in your home. So you're essentially sort of part of the family if you're really watching something year after year after year.
Mm-hmm. Well, Russell Johnson wrote, I thought, one of the most loving forewords that I've ever read. And
isn't it beautiful? I just got tears in my eyes.
I know. And he wanted us, the readers, to know that, and this is his quote, you added the flow of life and the love, and the flow of life and love to the character of Marianne. And, excuse me, and also he said that the real reason why we love Marianne is because it's really you. And
I kind of am I was raised kind of a Marianne in Reno, Nevada, with gambling and prostitution and divorce is really where Marianne came from. But I had the values that I think that Marianne possesses.
Well, I think that's true. And What Would Marianne Do? And you call it What Would Marianne Do? A Guide for Life. You do 2 things. You give great advice, and you have vignettes about your castaway castmates. That's a mouthful. And some of the, some of those stories made me laugh, and some of them just absolutely brought tears to my eyes.
Aw.
They were so sweet, the little vignettes that you did. But I thought What Would Marianne Do is really a self-help kind of book, yes?
Yes, I think so. I think what it is it's kind of a take a look at where we are now. Maybe a mom sitting down with a 13-year-old daughter, or a grandmother sitting down, or a dad saying, the world is a whole different place now. How do we go through it? How do we manipulate our lives? What do we do? Because the choices are so different than when Marianne existed, and yet the choices are the same.
Mm-hmm.
Those values go on for centuries. Kindness, polite, finish the job you start. Do you always have to be first in line? All of those things that I think we forget about because we're into the $500 person, the Kardashians.
Oh, yeah, that's true. But when I first started to read it, I thought, oh, this is really a good book that like for my listeners, to tell them that it would be good for a child, a teen, or a 20-something child, or, for if you have grandchildren for that age. But then as I got more into it, and because I do a show about women in midlife, I started to notice that, when we get to midlife, things start to change. And sometimes a woman at midlife, 40s, 50s, 60s, well, now she's starting over. Maybe there's been a death or a divorce, and sometimes she's reinventing because now she has an empty nest, or she had a career change, or she's thinking about retirement, or what to do in what career she might have in a retirement, because it's 65 is young anymore, so so that we're not retiring the way that we used to. So,
right.
So Dawn, that's how I read it, as a way to rediscover who you really are at whatever age, by getting back to some of the basics about life, and just what you said, that maybe we got distracted from them over time.
Well, and it's very perceptive, because people automatically think it's Marianne, and you're going to the young girl, and you are going to the young girl. But I'm a middle-aged woman, old-aged woman actually, and I have gone through a lot of things in my life that we all go through. And not only do we all go through it, I'm in the public eye going through it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So it's a lot different. I mean, all this criticism about somebody got their eyes done, but she shouldn't have done it. But everybody's watching what they do. But the housewife, or the mother, or the grandmother in Iowa is facing a lot of the same things.
That's true. Yeah.
Not the publicity, but the overall change in what your ideas are, and what you can do with your idle time, and how you feel about being alone, and all of those little things that if you're pretty together, pretty happy, it's easier. But change is always hard.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think that anytime you go through any kind of a change, whatever it is, even just the physical changes that come with age, that you're like, where did that wrinkle come from?
Well, I used to be able to lift this. Now I can't even lift it. That kind of thing is exactly. And I'm on the road all the time, carrying my luggage and all of that. And I really see a difference in how easy it isn't.
Yeah, because it changes, and what you could do easily. I remember watching my mother one day, and she was my mother passed away when she was 90, and before she did, we helped her move into a retirement community, and she was walking down the basement steps that I had seen her run up and down more times than I could even imagine. And she was walking down sideways, holding onto the railing, and it shocked me, because I thought, well, when did that happen?
Yes.
You know? So,
Are you an only child, did you say?
No. I have 3 siblings.
Well,
but you know what? But when I was taking care of my mom, I was like an only child.
Yes.
Yes. I was that caregiver person.
You were the one.
Mm-hmm.
And isn't it a blessing that you could do it?
It really was, because there were a lot of things in that mother-daughter relationship with me and my mom that was, those things were different. And in those last few years with my mom, maybe the last, I was strongly a caregiver for about 5 years. And a lot of those things got worked out, and it really was a blessing.
Yeah, and I'm the same thing. I'm very strong. My mother was very strong. I was very directional of what I was going to do. She was very supportive, but very, very aware of where I was every minute. There's wonderful stories behind all of that. But as she aged, the roles sort of reversed,
Yeah,
And she
that's
kind of
true.
depended on me to do things, although she was perfectly capable. And there's one cute little story because she's getting real cranky. And I said to the doctor, can you give her a happy pill? He said, what are you talking about? I said, something, she just seems kind of mean or unhappy with everything. He said, sure, I'll give her a little something. Well, my mother didn't like to take medicine of any kind. So I said, Mother, this is for your sinus. She had a sinus problem. And this, I think, will help you with your breathing and everything. She said, all right. And her mood, I don't know whether it changed or not, but when she passed away, all the pills had been thrown behind the stove. She was just like a kid. She didn't take them.
Oh,
she totally
my
understood.
Goodness.
Yeah. I mean, she was smart as a whip. She just was a little frail, you know. She never lost her mental capacity ever with me. So right till the very end. And actually, one of the doctors said to me, well, what's your family history? I said, I don't know. The hospital gave my father a wrong dose of medicine at age 56, and my mother choked to death. So I don't know. Is it high blood pressure?
That's right.
I don't know what it is.
But what a great story that she was perceptive enough and she just wasn't taking that medication.
No.
That's really something.
It wasn't going to alter what she thought and make her feel different or something. No, because I'm raised in a household where one aspirin would do it, and that's it. Nothing else, kind of. You know.
Yeah. My mom was like that, and I'm guessing your mom lived into her 90s, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. My mother was 90 when she passed, so it's good. We have longevity, Dawn.
Well, I know. I think that's my mother was 94. And had she not choked, she was frail and couldn't see very much, and she couldn't see television from far away. Had to read with the books on tape and stuff, but she still wanted to cook for herself if she could and that kind of stuff. So she was pretty strong.
That's good. Yeah.
But we're all going to be here as long as we're meant to.
Yeah, that's really the truth. But Dawn, there's something that you write about in What Would Marianne Do that I wish more women would understand, especially because, for the most part, we're living longer than the generation before us, and it's something that I was late to myself. So I know there's time for all my midlife listeners to get on board with this. And here's what it is. You say a woman needs to be her own company and her own brand. Now, can you explain that to my listeners when you say that?
Well, I think you have to like yourself. I think you have to know what pleases you and do what pleases you. Whether it's sitting home and reading all day, whether it's lying in bed watching television, whether it's going out to a bridge game or whatever it is, I think you really need to know who you are. And then what was the second statement?
To explain that, so it would be like being Dawn Wells Inc. or Annmarie Kelly Inc. And
take charge of who you are. I think that's kind of that I say to the kids as they're getting older. As they're growing up, you're in charge of who you are. The only barrier that we have is our health.
Mm-hmm.
If you can be, and you're going to weaken. My knees have been dislocating since the 6th grade, so I'm almost about to go downstairs sideways. I'm so terrified my knee's going to dislocate and I'm going to fall. That, you don't care if you fall at 14, but I don't want to fall now.
Right.
But your physical limitations, but yet there's things that make you happy and things that excite you. And I can't live without the news. I can't live without a football game. All of those things I'm still looking forward to. And I'm not a grandmother. I think being a grandmother and watching your grandchildren as they progress, your kids as they become successful or dependent or whatever happens, I'm alone. And I think I have to do more for myself, about myself, than other people because I don't have any family stimulation.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's harder, and yet again, maybe it isn't. Maybe it's easier. I'm not worrying about a son overseas, or I'm not worrying about a grandchild that's ill. I'm not worrying about, is John going to make his mortgage payments? I'm not worrying about anybody.
Yeah.
I worried about my mother. She was 94. I worried about her, but she never lost the ability to communicate with me, so our decisions were mutual, a lot of them.
Oh, and that was good.
I always feel we're dealt a hand of cards, and you have to play what you've got.
And you have seemed to do it in such an interesting way, Dawn, that you seem to have such an upbeat attitude. And you did talk about the benefits of optimism and What Would Marianne Do.
Oh, I think so. I'm very much always looking at the bright side, maybe not the negative side enough. I always weigh it. I was a debater, and one of the things when I wrote the book, I went, oh, that's why I am the way I am. Because of my knees, I couldn't do any sport, but I got on the debate team. And a debate team, if you're, let's say, the subject's abortion, you as the debate team has to cover both sides thoroughly because you don't know which side they're going to ask you to speak on.
Mm-hmm.
So I look at life that way. What are the alternatives? What's the other side of this? All of that. I always weigh everything. And I think my grandmother was optimistic. I said to her, did you and Grandpa ever fight? She said, oh, no. When he got mad, I just went out and picked flowers. Well, now, is it really important that you have to make your point? Probably, or probably not. I don't know. It depends on your personality.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're alone, you can't. The decisions you make are all yours, almost, and you can't blame anybody for any of it because you've done it.
Right.
And yet, I don't know. I'm a happy person, and tomorrow is even going to be a better day. And if it's a storm, isn't it great? We needed the rain, and that's kind of where I come from. I don't know that you can teach anybody that. I don't know if that's your soul. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good question, because I wonder, like even in my own family, where people come and when I was growing up, my siblings used to laugh at me and call me a great child of the universe, because there were things that I didn't, I just couldn't get involved in the same way that they did. I wasn't as angry, and I wasn't as competitive. Not angry, but competitive. So sometimes I think it's some of that's nature and some of it's nurture, but we had the same parents, so some of it had to be nature.
When you say that reminds me, because I met a psychiatrist. She was a lovely lady. 30 years ago, and she said, "What's the most difficult thing for you being an only child?" I said, "What?" She said, "You don't learn how to fight."
Oh, that's.
She said,
yeah.
You don't learn how to fight. If you're fighting with your brothers and sisters, you're going to see them at breakfast. If you fight with the kid next door, he takes his toys, go home, and they might not come back. And maybe that's why I'm so amiable. Never thought about that till I started to talk to you. Maybe I can't be as combative as I could be if I'd had brothers and sisters. I don't know.
Well, one of the things that I thought was with that whole idea of being Dawnwell's Inc., your own personal brand, and the optimism, as I was reading What Would Marianne Do, or how I saw them come together, is that as popular as Gilligan's Island, it always makes me laugh. It was only on for 3 years, but the reruns have been almost constant. But in the reruns, you didn't get any residuals. You've really got no money from the Gilligan's Island phenomenon, from a Hollywood perspective. But
we've never been off the air since 1964. We're in 30 languages all over the world, the longest running show in the history of television, and we're not making a dime. Well, the producers did.
Yeah.
I understand. I did a thing for CBS called TV Moguls, because I'm not making this up. They had me. I read the script, and Sherwood Schwartz made $90 million on the reruns of Gilligan's Island alone. Not the Brady Bunch, not the production, just the reruns. And I always laughingly said, couldn't he split $1 million between 7 of us?
Yeah, really. But yet you have been smart enough to take your input into Marianne, and now we call that your intellectual capital, and keep it going. And
I don't know that I purposely have done that as much as the fans have triggered it. I mean, I went through the Pentagon. I have nobody military in my family, and the week Bin Laden went down, 5 years, I don't know ago, and I was invited by the Department of Intelligence, and I said I would love to see it. And I had Army, Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard, everybody with me, Marines, everybody with me going through the Pentagon. And after, I did not know that generals have their own coins. Don't know why exactly, but when you shake hands with somebody, you can trade coins. And I had a lot of coins. And the Marine that was escorting me said, I've been in the military for 20 years. I don't have that many coins. And I said, you don't understand. They're bombing Iraq, but I was their first crush. I was with that 10-year-old or 13-year-old boy that wanted to take Marianne to the prom, or would go to play baseball with her, or whatever. You don't forget that.
Yeah,
it's like your first kiss. You don't really forget your first kiss, do you?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. I don't think you. I don't think you do.
So when I had a wonderful soldier that told me I was in his helmet, and my picture was in the hooch or hotch or whatever you call that. But that about coming home. Marianne is a girl you come home to. Almost like World War II kind of thing.
Oh, yeah, that was like Ginger Rogers.
It's amazing to me. Yeah, it's amazing to me what people say. And that's the reason I wrote the book, that I think we're losing track of that core of this girl. I mean, anybody else could have played her, perhaps. Perhaps, I don't know. I took a lot of how I was raised in my developing her, but then the script also didn't make me mean or anything.
Right.
We all kind of characterized it ourselves. I mean, Ginger was a beautiful movie star. She wasn't relating particularly, but maybe she wouldn't have. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but you know what I thought was funny, that you wrote that when you auditioned for the part, Raquel Welch was among the other women who auditioned.
And I must disclaim that because I never saw her, and I don't really believe that that's true. I don't know who told me that. Maybe one of the producers or directors. I never saw her. There were about 300 of us auditioning, and she'd have been a much better Ginger than a Marianne.
Well,
she
that's
was so
true.
Beautiful, so sexy, you know.
But how different would that have been if she had gotten that part? Because Marianne is Dawn Wells, and she would have brought such a different energy to that character.
Well, you're right, and go back to the ingenues of the Donna Douglas and the Petticoat Junctions, and that ingenue was a different character than me.
That's true.
And I don't know why. Maybe it's my interaction with the other castaways. I don't really know.
Yeah. Dawn, I have a question I want to ask you about Natalie Schaefer, but we need to take a break. So we're going to go away, and everybody hang in there. We're going to come right back.
Okay,
you're listening to the Friday Happy Hour. Okay, welcome back to the Friday Happy Hour with me, Annmarie Kelly, and my guest, Dawn Wells. Dawn, in one of the vignettes, and I just love those little vignettes, but you talk about Natalie Schaefer, and there was something that made me laugh so hard, and it's that she never told her age.
Never.
And
I used to, oh, come on, Nellie, just tell me. I won't tell me. Nope. And we shared a doctor. And I said, okay, Dr. Knoll, how old is she? Old, Dawn, old. No, how old? Old, Dawn, old. And I said, Natalie, how do you get a passport? How can you? Now, I don't know. Maybe she hadn't been traveling the last 20 years of her life. I don't know. But she would never, when she died and they said she was 91, I just went, oh, you're kidding.
Yeah, because
so she had to be in her mid-60s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That just made me laugh. But you know, I thought about that, and I'm just like that. I never tell my age, and I always tell my high school alums when we get together, I say, make up a story about how you met me, but don't say that we went to school together, or either that or go along with the age that I tell people that I am. And so they just get a big kick out of it. And
well, nowadays you can't hide it though. Nowadays with TMZ and all that kind of stuff, if somebody was just coming into the business, I don't think you could keep it quiet. How old you were?
Well, that's true. But see, she didn't. She was older and she didn't tell. But you were young because you were only 25 when you did Gilligan's Island, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So everybody knew that. So you sort of it's hard now to hide. But except you don't hide your age. In fact, you talk about aging in the most I thought I loved it. You talk about aging in the most positive way. And there's a place where you have something called the Marianne Message, and it's about speaking up, taking a stand, and staying true to your values and ethics. And you say that you did that rocking a cute little island outfit, you know. And I thought that was a neat way of saying that, you know, you can be who you really are, no matter what you look like. And for you, as you're getting older, you're not even thinking about, you're thinking about age in a positive way, but you're not even thinking about a retirement.
Oh my gosh, no. Oh my gosh, no. I mean, if I'm, knock on wood, pray to God, if I'm healthy enough. I mean, right now, I'm really, there's a play I want to do. I won't discuss what it is, but there's a play. I did Lion in Winter last summer, or the summer before last, actually, and boy, that was a challenge. But I'm very interested in radio. I really, really love what you do, and what you do, you're doing it with depth. You know, no DJs playing music. Mm-hmm. You have a message, and you have audience that cares about what your program is going to be, and you have followers that aren't out playing tennis so much. You know that it's a wonderful thing you're doing, and I like radio. I'm a news junkie anyway. I watch news a lot, and my brain, God bless me, my brain is still there, and I don't know as you start to lose that, then what? Then how do you? Maybe do you get discouraged? I don't know. I don't know. Everybody has to find their strength inside, I think.
Well, I think that radio, because it's been changing, now you can get like I tell when I send out an e-blast before a show, I tell my Victorious Woman community, you can get me online, you can get me on your Android phone. Like it isn't just the radio. You know how we used to just turn the dial. You can get it all kinds of ways now, which is something pretty neat.
But then let me ask you: do you have any privacy? Do you have any downtime?
Do I? Sure I do. And you know what's really interesting, because it's radio and people don't necessarily know what I look like. I think that that's kind of a neat thing, because people will recognize me by my voice sooner than they will know who I am.
Yeah, that is kind of neat, isn't it?
It is. I was at an event I was emceeing a Parkinson's fundraiser a little while back, and somebody came up to me right before the fundraiser started and said, excuse me, she said, my husband listens to you all the time, and he recognized my name. But if he had met me in the store around town, he wouldn't have known who I was.
Oh, see, that's even more fun.
It is. It really is.
Yeah, because
I do like
say,
it.
I wonder what she looks like now. How is she aged? I mean, because they have something really to compare it to. Well, it gets harder every year, but I am who I am, and I'm not pulling and lifting and tucking. I'm terrified when I see what happens to some of them. It always tickles me. I mean, I think it's fine. Jane Fonda has done it and talked about it, and she looks terrific. But what if the doctor makes a mistake? It scares me.
Well, I get that, because I look at some people and they might have their eyes done or something, and then it doesn't even look like them anymore.
I know. I know. And maybe they'd rather have that than have the wrinkles or whatever.
Well, I can get that,
but I've been blessed. I have real oily skin. I've never used a moisturizer yet, knock wood. So I've been blessed that way.
And you're good. But you know what I had to laugh about? One of the things you said in that you went through your beauty routine, and you talked about wearing false eyelashes.
Oh, I love false eyelashes. I was laughing yesterday, though. I said to one of my girlfriends, it's getting harder and harder for me to put them on. Because now I have my nails long and hold that little end and strip. I'm poking myself in the eye with my nails. I was laughing. I said, it used to be easier. I wonder why it was easier before.
Because your nails weren't as long. That's why.
I guess so. And I had the makeup girl to do it on the set, I don't know.
Yeah.
But everybody, and the thing is now, everybody's wearing hair extensions, wigs, false eyelashes. It isn't if just because you get old you decide you need a hairpiece or something, it makes you stand out. Everybody's doing it. False eyelash doesn't mean that you're a fast lady or anything. Kind of anything goes, which is also wonderful.
Well, I like it. I have a pair of false eyelashes. I just haven't figured out how to use them yet, but I have them. So, and then when I was reading,
the key of all of that is the glue, which is that Johnson & Johnson Duo glue, and then you kind of fan them a little bit so it gets kind of tacky. If you try to put it on too soon, then you get it all over your eyelids. But if you let it kind of just get a little bit tacky and just lay them in, they stay.
Oh, now that's a good tip.
So just go home and practice, and I want you to call me in a week and let me know.
I will go home and practice, because that's exactly what I would put the stuff on. I'd put it on my eyes, and then it would get messy. But I will do that. I'll fan them around, and then I'll put them on. And
when you put them on, press right in the center, and let the center take hold, and then kind of go out to each end and press it down.
That's great, Dawn. That's a great tip. Thank you. But and you were talking about all those things in your book, and I thought, oh, I have false eyelashes. I just haven't figured out how. Now I'm going to try it. Now that you've given me the secret. And
all your listeners are going to the mirror right now and giving it a shot.
That's right. Yeah, in midlife we need anything that opens our eyes up a little bit more.
Absolutely, and everybody's doing it, so it doesn't make you look like you're trying to look like a streetwalker. It actually makes you look prettier.
Well, and there's like so many different kinds you can get, like the real glamorous kind. The ones that I got I think they were called business, because they're not as long and they're whatever they are,
and they're finer. But when we wore false eyelashes on the show, Tina Ginger got them from New York, and they were made of mink. They almost look like fur.
Oh, my.
And they were $25 a pair then. Mm. And I don't know that we would even know what false eyelashes were had she not provided them, and they were really great. I wish I had some of them.
Yeah, they looked really good, too. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, something that I learned that I'll bet my listeners don't know is that if you didn't go into acting, you would have become a pediatric surgeon.
Yep. I love medicine. I love medicine. And I was blessed with working the Children's Miracle Network telethon. I produced and co-hosted it in Missouri for a long time, and I was very close to a lot of the doctors, and I was able to watch a total hip replacement.
Wow.
And I watched a husband and wife team. She was a neurosurgeon, and she was a plastic surgeon. He was a neurosurgeon. They repaired a 4-month-old baby's deformed skull, and I was 4 feet away from the operating table and watched the whole thing. And the baby came out perfectly shaped head and nursed with her mother 4 hours later. And I said, what am I doing with my life? Just making people laugh a little bit. When people are doing what they're doing in this world today, I'm absolutely amazed and astounded.
Well, I don't know. I think what you did with this book, What Would Marianne Do, is a good thing, because I think that as I said earlier, if a mother or grandmother wants to get it for their teen or 20-something, but it's a good thing. But even to read it for themselves and rethink what their life is now. And now as a fully grown woman, as an adult, not that you're not an adult at 20 or 30, but you know what I'm saying. It's when you're midlife, it's different.
Well, and sometimes you're running through life so fast you don't stop and realize. There are two stories I read. One was Richard Nixon running for governor on a United Airlines magazine. And it just talked about what he was like in college. And he wanted to play football. He was a football player. He practiced every weekend, during the week, every practice, suited up every single time, never got off the bench. And the coach said he never lost the desire to keep trying. Okay, well, that says a lot about everybody. When you stop and think about that, you give up the first time around.
Right.
Maybe it was too persistent. I don't know. But and then another one, they were interviewing the 7 most successful people or something, and they asked, did one thing stand out in your life? And this one gentleman, I wish I remembered who it was, said, yes, it was me when I was about 4, and it was my mother. He said, she was doing the dishes, and I wanted a glass of milk. So she said, you can get it yourself. Well, I don't know whether it was a glass bottle or a big gallon or what, but he said, I spilled it all over the floor. And her reaction was, oh, look what you did. Well, you're going to have to clean it up anyway, so you may as well play in it for a while if you want to.
Oh.
And that is quite a reaction from a mother with milk on the floor.
Really?
But he said, that stuck in my mind, and how he digested that the rest of his life.
Oh, my goodness.
You're going to have to clean up your mess anyway, but you better, all right, what did it teach you, or what good can come out of it, or, I mean, it really says a lot, I think.
That does say a lot. That's interesting. Huh.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing, you said, something in all those little vignettes that you wrote in between the advice part, you talk about your different castmates from Gilligan's Island. And the one that surprised me the most, you seem very close to Russell Johnson, and he passed away right before your book was published.
Yes, last February.
Yeah, and you were very friendly with Bob Denver, and you said that he was very shy, and I don't think people would really know that about him.
Oh, he was kind of uncomfortable being himself, I think, a little bit. He was very, very bright, and not a goof at all. And he was anti-pesticides before they even talked about it. And a very gentle soul. One thing stands out in my mind. There was the Jack and the Beanstalk episode, and his son, who was 5 at the time, played a little Gilligan, and Skipper was the giant. And, of course, he had the little Gilligan outfit on. And it was Friday night. And I asked Bob if Patrick could spend the night with me, and he said, sure. So he said, but he probably won't take off the outfit. He'll probably sleep in it. I said, okay. So little 5-year-old Patrick, dressed like Gilligan, comes home with me. And I had another couple I'd invited for bridge, and we all had a nice little dinner, and it was time to put Patrick to bed. Oh, but before, I have to back up. When he got ready to leave, Bob took and hugged him, and instead of saying, now you behave, he said, give Marianne lots of love.
Oh.
That was the direction. And Patrick woke up in the middle of didn't go to sleep, I guess. He said, Marianne came padding out when we were playing bridge and said, I'm scared. I said, oh, I bet you are, so let's go back in and find out why. So we went back in the bedroom, we talked. He said, I'm not scared anymore. Isn't this silly? And I said, do you want me to leave the light on? He said, no, I'm brave now. I mean, and he was 5. So you know that Bob spent so much time with his children. He'd be starry-eyed the next morning. I said, you look exhausted. He said, well, we built a spider farm last night, and we had to name the spiders. And I think that's why he was so good at that comedy. There's a soul of him that was a child inside.
Oh, isn't that neat?
I think so. Yeah.
And he was way taller than I thought he was.
Yes, 6 feet.
Yeah, for some reason I always thought of him as being about 5'7".
Because he's so little in structure, I think.
Yeah, maybe. But so when I read that, I was like, he was way taller. You seem to just have gotten along very well with all of your castmates.
I did. We all did. I mean, I never saw any discord on the set. I never saw any temper tantrums or anger or none of that. We might have said, isn't this the silliest thing? Somebody's surfing on and surfing off. How are they going to explain this? We might have done that a couple times. I never saw any discord at all. I don't know if there was any.
Yeah, I'm guessing that some of the storylines were like,
What?
And not too long ago, you presented a coconut cream pie to Sandra Bullock.
That was so cute.
How did that come about?
Fun. Well, the gentleman by the name of Gino Salamone was a promoter, and Bob and Russ and I used to go out and do, boat shows and that kind of stuff with Gino. And he now I had done this for Australia. When a movie comes out, the stars are in a hotel in either New York or Los Angeles, each star in their own room, and the video people come in and you do little promos and then they take it back to their local stations. I did it for Australia. I was a foreign press, actually, for the United States. But Sandra Bullock was promoting her, I can't say Galaxy, whatever the name of that show was, the movie that she just did, Outer Space. And Gino has been interviewing her for years, and he said, I keep asking her to marry me. She keeps saying no. He said, I have a different idea. I want to surprise her. I said, what do you want to do? So he got a coconut cream by, and he went into her, and he said, now, Sandra, I am not going to propose to you this year. She said, you're not. He said, nope. I want you to live with me. I want you to live with me on my island, and I have my own cook. And then he brought me out with the coconut cream pie.
Oh, that was wonderful.
Wasn't that cute? Yeah. Gravity. That was the movie, Gravity. Yeah.
Oh, what a great thing.
And she was so cute with it, too. She was so cute with it.
Well, you know, Dawn, everything we talked about today is like the tip of the iceberg. There's so much rich stuff that you wrote about in your book, and my listeners are just going to have to go out and get a copy of What Would Mary Ann Do?
It's great for a Christmas gift. You're absolutely right. It's not expensive. It's a small gift, and it'll be with you forever, I hope.
Yeah, and again, I think that it's really good for women in midlife. It's kind of a review of, you're kind of going back to, you talk a lot about rituals and things, and I think that rituals that guide you for how to live your life.
And they're important. I'm glad you think that as well. It is important, and it changes. Mm-hmm. I mean, as you get older, there's things that are a little bit different. I mean, the one thing about Natalie said, I'm not going to be an old lady at home in an old bathrobe. She got dressed. She swam naked in her pool every morning. Nobody could see her, and she got dressed every day. I mean, really dressed.
Yeah, yeah. I saw a picture of her, and she was, at the time, it was in 1990. So if she was born in 1900, she looked fabulous for 90.
Absolutely fabulous.
Yeah.
Always had her hair colored. Always put the lipstick on. Always had a manicure. Always wore a bright color. And she always had a smile on her face too. You know, that makes a big difference. You can see a lot of grouchy people that are beautiful and they aren't pretty anymore.
Well, and you know, it was Coco Chanel who said, I think I won't say it. I won't. This isn't an exact quote, but basically she said, at 20 you have the face that God gave you. At 50 you have the face you earned.
That's very true.
So I thought, and I do see that being true. So putting that smile on your face, having that optimistic attitude, all the things you talk about and What Would Mary Ann Do, I think are all things that help you build your inside so that they show nice on your outsides.
Well, look at Betty White, 92.
Yeah.
Not only just working, memorizing lines. It's not a show that's taped scene by scene by scene. It's all in front of an audience.
Yes.
And I've never seen her without a smile on her face, joy when she meets somebody and sees somebody. I've never seen her anything but happy.
And at the same time, I don't think anybody gets anything past her.
Oh, she's smart as a whip.
Yeah, which I think is really neat. She has that same thing that you talk about standing up for yourself and speaking up.
Yep, but gently and not putting anybody else down, just standing up for herself.
Well, Dawn, before we leave, you say something really hopeful and positive about living a life that rules with rules and rituals and integrity. And what you said in What Would Mary Ann Do is, time pays you back if you have class. Yeah, I thought that was wonderful.
It kind of does, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, you certainly have class, Dawn Wells, and I'm glad that I'm glad that you're modeling the Mary Ann lifestyle for us midlife victory chicks. Can you tell everybody what's coming up next for you?
Well, I have a reality show, I hate to say that word, about history, also about shipwrecks. And right now I'm on the book tour. They're debating, I'm doing a pilot. I'm filming a pilot right after Christmas. And then I'm going, this is kind of fun, I'm going to Toronto in January. I don't know how fun that is, but I'm going to Toronto in January. They have restored the SS Minnow. And they have done such a beautiful job. I was in Vancouver with it last year. They take it out for charity events like Make-A-Wish and stuff. So it's still making kids smile. I just think it's neat. So I'm going up there for the weekend. Oh,
that's very nice. That's great. And I wanted to tell you this. My spouse, Joseph, who my listeners know because I talk about him, he was so excited that I was going to be talking to you. And when So with each person that I spoke to over the last month or so, when I said Ginger or Mary Ann, when they said Mary Ann, I said, well, what was it? And they said things like, she was honest and she was like the girl next door. not my spouse. Now, maybe he was just more comfortable and he was honest. I said, well, what was it about Marianne? And he said, her shorts.
Of course.
That fast. And I said, well, that came out
that's
fast.
What I said, too. I said, Sherwood Schwartz made this sweet little farm girl and was smart enough to put her in a pair of shorts.
I know.
It was the first short shorts on television.
Yeah, and they were
the
short.
Wouldn't allow it. Yeah.
Yeah. It was it was great, and he just loved them, and he's such a nice man that I never expected that to come out of his mouth, and to come out of his mouth so fast. So
quickly.
Yeah, you had such an impression.
Drawer, by the way, I have them in the drawer. I wonder who wore them. They're so little.
Oh, isn't that funny? Well, there was a day.
Long ago, but I'm still here and we still care. That's all that counts.
Yeah. Dawn, thank you so much. It was just lovely to have you here. Thank you so much for coming to the Friday Happy Hour.
Well, let me say it was one of the nicest interviews ever, and kudos to you. That was lovely. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. So hopefully we'll catch up with you another time. And I am going to call you when I get good at doing eyelashes. I'm going to call you and thank you.
Sure. You're in the middle of it. If you're in the middle of it and you're desperate, call me then, or call and tell me how it works. Thank you, dear.
Great.
Have a happy holiday, all of you.
Thank you, Dawn.
Bye-bye.
Bye. And we're leaving for a couple of minutes, so stay with me. You're listening to the Friday Happy Hour.